Welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we're diving into a really beautiful ancient parable. We're going to look at how sudden, catastrophic life disruptions, the ones, are actually often just catalysts for finding our true potential. Have you ever had a moment where your entire world felt like it was literally falling apart, only to realize years later that it was exactly what needed to happen? Let's get right into the story and figure out why that is. I want to start us off with this really powerful thought because it perfectly captures the emotional journey we're about to go on. Think about it. We spend so much energy avoiding loss, right? We're terrified of what happens when things end. But this story from the Tales by Naksu teaches us something different. It shows us that loss is frequently just a mechanism, kind of like a forceful push from life, demanding that we step up and fly higher. Let's start with part one, the illusion of safety. This is where we usually begin. Picture this. High up in the mountains, there's this old temple. The marble walls are incredibly thick, completely covered in green moss, bordering a perfectly silent courtyard. And right smack in the center of this quiet space hangs a massive bronze bell. Now, dust rests super heavy on its surface because, well, it hasn't been struck for many, many years. Birds would just fly right past it without a second thought. It was essentially a giant monument to stillness. But one little sparrow, she noticed something special. Looking inside the hollow of this giant bell, she saw a sanctuary. She realized, hey, it's cool in the summer and it's totally sheltered from the rain. Honestly, it was the perfect real estate for a home. So with twigs in her beak, one by one, she built her nest. She carefully lined the inside with soft feathers, working so incredibly hard to create a space where she could just sing in the crisp mornings and rest peacefully in the warm afternoon. And this sparrow, she was completely convinced her world was secure. She told herself, this is my safe place. Absolutely nothing can hurt me here. She was living under this absolute rock-solid assumption that this old bell, covered in all that dust, would never sound again. It's that comforting but kind of dangerous illusion of permanent safety. Which brings us to part two, the unexpected shake. Because life, it just shifts suddenly, doesn't it? One totally ordinary morning, the silence of the temple was broken. Footsteps started echoing loudly through the courtyard as the monks began to assemble. After years and years of silence, they had decided it was finally time to ring the great bronze bell to invite the local villagers to pray. And down below, the sparrow had absolutely no clue. She was just sitting happily in her nest, totally enjoying her morning. And then, without any warning whatsoever, boom, the monk struck the bell. A heavy, thunderous noise violently ripped through the air. The bell shook with immense, terrifying force. In one single, violent blow, the nest she had worked so desperately hard to build trembled and was just completely destroyed. Her carefully laid twigs fell apart instantly, and those soft feathers scattered everywhere into the wind. In literally a matter of seconds, her safe, secure little world was completely gone, and the terrified sparrow was sent flying out into the open air in an absolute panic. Fleeing with heavy, exhausted wings away from the only home she knew, she cried out in her heart. She desperately wondered the exact same thing we all wonder when disaster strikes, right? Why did this happen to me? What wrong did I do? She just couldn't wrap her head around why life had suddenly, and seemingly so cruelly, ripped away the home she loved so much. But here's where the story pivots. Part 3, Finding the Hidden Paradise. It's time to endure the test. Now, this wasn't an instant fix. Day after day, she wandered with literally nowhere to go. She searched the deep valleys, she rested on totally unfamiliar branches, but nothing felt right. By day 5, she was growing terribly exhausted and incredibly hungry. She thought about just giving up. But a little voice within her urged her to keep flying, just keep searching. And finally, around day 7, she tracked the distant noise of flowing water. Following that sparkling stream, she suddenly broke through the trees and discovered this sunlit, secret glade hidden deep within the forest. The light fell perfectly through the canopy, the air was incredibly fresh and sweet. There were berry trees absolutely loaded with fruit, and the branches were thick and spongy, literally the perfect material for building a house. She stopped and could scarcely believe her eyes. It was absolute paradise. Filled with a totally renewed sense of hope, she didn't just give up. She began to build again, and this time she took great care. She chose stronger sticks. She laid the branches down far more patiently. Because of her experience, she was actually able to construct a much larger, sturdier home than her very first one. Moving into part 4, the disguise start. This is where a really profound realization hits. So, resting in her new, completed home, feeling the light wind brush over her while the stream sang a gentle song nearby, she thought about her old nest, stuck inside a dark, hollow, dusty bronze bell, built with weak twigs, clinging to a mere illusion of safety. Then she looked at her new nest, a sunlit secret glade, fresh sweet air, built with stronger sticks, offering true freedom. She smiled, realizing this beautiful new environment was infinitely better than that dusty old bell she had clung to so desperately. And then the ultimate truth hit her. If the bell had never rung, she would have remained stuck in that hollow place forever. She finally understood that the terrifying, deafening event that blew away her entire world, it was the exact same mechanism that set her free. The loss of her first home was literally the only way she would have ever discovered a heaven she had never even seen. Let's bring this home with our final section, building your next chapter. How do we map this to our own lives? Well, just like the sparrow, we all construct our own nests, don't we? We build them in the form of our physical homes, our careers, our jobs, and our relationships. We get super comfortable. We line these nests with our everyday routines and our cozy habits. And we falsely believe that these safe spaces we've constructed are never going to change. We honestly think the bell will never ring. But inevitably, for all of us, one day, the bell is shaken by life. The company downsizes. A long-term relationship ends. A sudden health issue pops up out of nowhere. Everything we know breaks apart in a single, thunderous boom. In those moments, the pain feels incredibly heavy. And staring down an uncertain future, it's utterly terrifying. We ask, why me? But the absolutely crucial point here is understanding this concept, the disguised start. In those super dark moments, we have to remember that an unexpected loss or failure is often just life forcing you out of your comfort zone. The thing that fails is precisely what brings you to greater things, to places and heights you never even imagined possible while you're stuck inside that dusty bell. What we think is a devastating loss is actually just a beginning wearing a mask. So when your world is shaking and the twigs of your life are falling apart, please do not be scared. Do not for a second think it's the end of your story. Just like the sparrow wandering for days, you gotta keep your spirit strong. You must keep moving. You must keep searching and keep building, because the end of one chapter is simply the page turning to the very next one. I want to leave you with this question to reflect on today. Was your bell recently rung? Is your comfort zone currently scattered all over the floor? If so, embrace the search. Keep building. Because if you do, your next chapter, your next nest, is possibly going to be the prettiest and most fulfilling one of your entire life. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep flying higher, and I'll catch you next time.